It all happened so fast. A terrifying blur that began with pastel pink streamers and ended with my entire world shattered. The day I blacked out, 7 months pregnant, wasn't just the day I discovered I had cancer. It was the day I learned my husband and his family would rather watch me die than let their precious baby shower be ruined. I should have stayed home. My body had been screaming warnings all morning, sharp pains in my back, a strange fuzziness around my vision. But my husband Derek had begged me with those puppy dog eyes, the ones that always made me cave. His sister Madison was having her first baby, and according to his mom Diane, this was the most important family event of the year. So despite feeling like death warmed over, I'd driven 40 minutes, my belly a tight, uncomfortable drum against the steering wheel. The shower was already a cacophony of coos and fake laughter when we arrived. Madison, radiating smug superiority, held court, her hand resting delicately on her 5-month bump. Her eyes though cut through me the moment I walked in, that flicker of cold disdain quickly masked by a tight smile. "Oh, Emily," she announced, finally decided to grace us with her presence. Everyone turned, their eyes dissecting my significantly larger, 7-month belly, a silent judgment hanging in the air. Then Diane appeared, her cloying perfume an assault to my already throbbing head. "You look tired, Emily. Are you sure you're taking care of yourself properly?" Madison has been glowing. I forced a smile, a practiced art form in this family, as Derek conveniently disappeared to chat with his dad, Robert, and brother Tyler, abandoning me to the shark tank. The next hour was an agonizing crawl. I sat on an unforgiving folding chair, my back screaming, while Madison tore through gift after gift. Each ooh and ah from the assembled women was a fresh stab at my fading composure. My vision started to tunnel, sweat beading on my forehead despite the arctic blast of the air conditioning. "Are you okay?" whispered Carol, one of the few kind souls in this hostile room. I managed a week, just tired. But even my own voice sounded distant, submerged. The room began to tilt. Pink and white streamers, tiny onesies, the faces of women I barely knew, all swirled into a dizzying vortex. A sudden searing pain ripped through my abdomen, stealing my breath. I instinctively stood, desperate for fresh air, but the movement only amplified the terror. The room spun violently, my legs dissolving beneath me. I heard a voice far away calling my name, but it was swallowed by a roaring darkness. Then nothing. I don't know how long I was gone. When consciousness began to trickle back, I was on the cold, hard floor. Voices echoed above me, distorted and cruel. "Making a scene. Always has to be about her." Then a sharp, specific agony exploded in my stomach. Someone was kicking me. Disbelief warred with the blinding pain. Another kick landed, a direct blow to my pregnant belly. Madison's voice, sharp and laced with contempt, cut through the fog. "Wake up. We get it now." I tried to curl into myself to protect my baby, but my body was unresponsive, a heavy, unresponsive shell. Through barely open eyes I saw polished shoes, too many of them. Nobody moved. Nobody stopped her. Some people just can't handle pregnancy without making a scene. Robert's voice boomed, followed by muted, snickering laughter. They were amused. I heard Derek's hesitant voice. "Maybe we should." But his mother's iron will crushed it instantly. "Don't do it, son. She's faking. Emily's done this kind of thing before, trying to steal attention. Look at her. She's barely even committed to the act." Never. I had never done anything like this. My entire life I'd never fainted. But in Diane's warped reality, I was a manipulative actress staging a medical emergency. Another kick connected, this time with my ribs. Madison's voice dripped with venom. "Most likely drama, or she might need attention. Classic Emily. Can't let anyone else have the spotlight for 5 minutes." The pain, the sheer, unrelenting pain, kept me from fully succumbing to unconsciousness again, trapping me in a horrifying limbo where I could feel everything but do nothing. I desperately wanted to scream, to tell them something was truly wrong, but the words were stuck, trapped in my throat. Should I at least get her some water? Derek's voice again, weak and wavering. My heart broke, a tiny shard of it shattering at how easily he questioned what his own eyes were seeing, how readily his family's narrative replaced reality. "She's fine," Diane insisted, her voice chillingly calm. "This is exactly what she wants. Everyone fussing over her. If you call an ambulance, you're just playing into her hands. Besides, do you know how embarrassing it would be for Madison? Having her baby shower ruined by emergency services showing up for a faker." Madison's baby shower. That was what truly mattered. Not the 7-month pregnant woman unconscious on the floor, not the possibility of catastrophic harm, only the sanctity of Madison's special day. By the way, if you're still with me, still reeling from the sheer audacity of it all, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, more unbelievable stories are coming your way. The darkness pulled at me again, dragging me down. I heard footsteps receding, conversations resuming, the rustle of wrapping paper. They were going back to the party. They were continuing the baby shower while I lay there. The last sound before I plunged back into the void was Tyler's indifferent voice. Someone should at least move her to the couch so people don't have to step over her. When I finally woke, the world had changed. Fluorescent lights blazed above. Machines beeped a monotonous rhythm. The antiseptic smell of a hospital replaced the sweet, cloying scent of Madison's potpourri. I was utterly alone. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. My hands flew to my belly, searching for reassurance, for movement. The bump was there, but everything felt profoundly, terribly wrong. Why was I alone? Where was Derek? How had I even gotten here? A nurse, Sandra, entered. Her face was professionally neutral, which somehow scared me more than overt sympathy would have. "You're awake," she said, checking the machines. "My baby." I croaked, my throat raw. "Is my baby okay?" "Your baby is stable right now," Sandra said, those 3 words, stable right now, sending an icy tendril through my chest. "The doctor will be in shortly to discuss everything." "Where's my husband?" Sandra's professional mask slipped, just for a second, revealing a flash of disgust. "I'm not sure. You were brought in by ambulance alone." The paramedic said they received an anonymous call about an unconscious pregnant woman. Anonymous. Nobody in that room full of family had been willing to attach their name to getting me help. They had eventually called an ambulance, probably when my unconscious body became an undeniable inconvenience, but they'd done it anonymously, protecting their own reputations above all else. Dr. Patricia Williams, a kind-eyed woman in her 50s, pulled up a chair beside my bed, a gesture that immediately signaled gravitas. "Emily, I'm glad you're awake. You gave us quite a scare." She studied me. "Do you remember what happened?" I told her everything. The pain, the dizziness, losing consciousness, the kicks to my stomach. Her expression darkened with each word. "Has anyone examined you since you woke up?" "Just the nurse checking my vitals." Dr. Williams nodded slowly. "Emily, when you came in, we ran a full panel of tests. Your baby appears to be unharmed by the physical trauma, which is frankly miraculous. But we discovered something else. Something that explains why you collapsed." She paused, choosing her words with extreme care. "You have choriocarcinoma, a very aggressive form of cancer that develops from pregnancy-related cells. It's extremely rare to detect it during pregnancy like this." The word cancer hung in the sterile air, heavy and unreal. Cancer? While I was having a baby, it didn't make sense. "The tumor is in your uterus, and it's been bleeding internally," she continued. "That's what caused you to collapse. You were hemorrhaging, Emily. If you hadn't gotten here when you did, you might have bled to death." My mind reeled, trying to grasp the enormity of it. "But the baby? The baby is separate from the tumor right now. Your baby is okay. But Emily, this is serious. We need to treat this aggressively, and that complicates things significantly given your pregnancy." "Treat it how?" "Normally, we'd recommend immediate surgery and chemotherapy. But at 28 weeks pregnant, we have to weigh the risks carefully. The safest option for you would be an emergency C-section to deliver the baby as soon as possible, followed by immediate treatment. Your baby would be premature, but would have good survival odds at this stage." Premature birth. Cancer treatment. The kicks. Madison's boots. She had been kicking a woman actively bleeding internally from a cancerous tumor. I could have died, right there on her living room floor, while she complained about me stealing attention. "There's something else," Dr. Williams said quietly, her voice tinged with anger. "We found significant bruising on your abdomen and ribs, consistent with what you described. Emily, someone assaulted you while you were unconscious and pregnant. That's a crime. We're required to report it." Reality crystallized with terrifying clarity. Derek's family hadn't just neglected me. They hadn't just been callous. Madison had committed assault. Diane had actively prevented medical care. And Derek had stood by, a silent accomplice. And somewhere, probably at that very moment, they were pretending nothing had happened, expecting me to come home, apologize for ruining the baby shower, and never mention it again. "Report it," I said, my voice gaining strength, steeling itself. "Report everything." Dr. Williams nodded, a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. "We already have. The police will want to speak with you. But first we need to make some decisions about your treatment. Do you have family we can call? Someone who can be here with you for this?" My own parents live 3 states away. I'd let Derek's family slowly consume all our time, all our energy, all our holidays. My parents had stopped being a priority. A wave of shame washed over me. "My mother," I said, the words a lifeline. "Can you call my mother? Her number's in my phone." Sandra retrieved my phone. 17 missed calls from Derek. 34 texts. I didn't look at them. I gave Sandra my mom's number and listened as she made the call, explaining the situation with detached professionalism. The conversation was brief. My mom would be on the first flight. And then, according to Sandra, my mom had asked very coldly if that husband of hers was there. And when told no, had said some things about Derek that made Sandra raise an eyebrow. 2 police officers arrived an hour later. I told them everything, my voice steady now, fueled by a fierce protective instinct for myself and my baby. They took notes, photographed my bruises. "Would you be willing to press charges?" the older officer asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation. I named Madison Diane Robert. Let them deal with the family's wrath for once, I thought. I'm done protecting people who left me to die. After they left, I finally looked at Derek's messages. They started with feigned concern. "Where are you?" Mom said an ambulance came. "Are you okay?" But quickly devolved into accusatory territory. "You really scared everyone. Madison is crying. She thinks this is her fault somehow. Mom says you're probably fine, but could you at least let us know?" And finally, the ultimate indictment. "This is really embarrassing, Emily. Can you please just come home so we can talk about this like adults?" I blocked his number. Then Diane's, Madison's, every single one of them. The hospital could field their calls from now on. Dr. Williams returned with a team of specialists. My options were laid out in stark medical terms. Emergency C-section, followed by aggressive treatment, offered the best chance of survival. Waiting to deliver naturally would give the cancer time to spread. My baby would be born at 30 weeks, but modern NICUs were miraculous. "I want to meet with a social worker too," I said, surprising myself with the clarity of my voice. "I need to file for divorce and establish sole custody before the baby is born." The doctors exchanged glances. Dr. Williams nodded slowly. "We can arrange that. Emily, that's a very practical approach given your situation." My situation? She meant given that my husband stood by while his sister kicked me, while his mother prevented emergency services from being called. Given that my in-laws valued a baby shower over my life. Given that I was about to undergo cancer treatment while recovering from childbirth. And I needed to ensure that the people who assaulted me wouldn't have legal access to my vulnerable newborn. My mother arrived the next morning, looking like she'd aged a decade overnight. She swept into the room, held me carefully, and cried into my hair, repeating, "I should have said something. I should have told you they were bad news. It's not your fault, Mom." "Where is he?" she asked, pulling back, her eyes sharp, scanning the room as if Derek might be hiding in a corner. "Where's your husband?" "I don't know. I blocked his number." She nodded with grim satisfaction. "Good." The social worker, Janet, arrived that afternoon. She helped me fill out emergency custody papers and temporary restraining orders. In Washington state, proving domestic violence or immediate danger to a child can expedite custody arrangements, she explained. The police report, medical records, witness statements from hospital staff documenting your bruises. It will all support your case. Your husband will be served with papers tomorrow. The restraining order will prevent him from coming to the hospital or contacting you. Given that the baby will be born here and remain in NICU care, the hospital can also restrict his access. Can they do that? Legally, when there's documented evidence that family members pose a danger to the mother or child? Absolutely. Janet's gaze met mine. "And Emily, I want you to know that what happened to you was unforgivable. You're making the right choice, protecting yourself and your baby." The surgery was scheduled for the next day. They would deliver my baby, then immediately assess the cancer. I spent that night with my mother holding my hand, both of us trying not to think about all the things that could go wrong. My daughter was born at 6 a.m. on a Thursday in September. She weighed 3 pounds 2 ounces and her tiny cry was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. They let me see her for just a moment before whisking her away to the NICU. Her minuscule body hooked up to machines. "She's perfect," the doctor assured me. "Small, but everything is where it should be. She's a fighter." I named her Charlotte Rose after both my grandmothers. Charlotte Rose Miller. My maiden name. A line drawn in the sand, separating my old life from whatever came next. The cancer treatment began immediately. The tumor was removed during the C-section, and biopsies confirmed it hadn't spread. I would need chemotherapy, but the prognosis was cautiously optimistic. Dr. Williams used phrases like "caught early enough" and "excellent response rates." I remained in the hospital for 6 days, recovering from the C-section and tumor removal. The incision was larger than usual, a testament to the battle I just fought. Every movement hurt, but I insisted on being wheeled to the NICU twice a day to see Charlotte, to press my face against the incubator and whisper to her. Derek was served with divorce papers while I was in recovery. According to Janet, he tried to come to the hospital, only to be turned away by security. He'd made a scene, claiming his rights as a father, but the police reminded him about the restraining order and escorted him off the premises. The story spread like wildfire through the hospital grapevine. Nurses would mention it carefully, their eyes full of sympathy. I was becoming a cautionary tale. Look what happens when families value appearances over reality. 3 days after Charlotte's birth, Madison and Diane were charged. Assault in the 3rd degree for Madison, criminal negligence for Diane. Robert, too, for his role in preventing medical care. Tyler escaped legal consequences but lost his job when his employer found out. Derek's family hired an expensive lawyer, who immediately tried to paint me as unstable and vindictive. Their version: I fainted naturally. Madison was only trying to wake me up. The kicks were gentle nudges. Diane claimed she'd been about to call an ambulance. My accusations were just an attempt to alienate Derek from his loving family. The problem? The physical evidence. Hospital photographs showed clear boot-shaped bruises. The police had interviewed guests and several, perhaps racked with guilt, had contradicted the family's story. Aunt Carol, bless her, gave a damning statement, describing Madison's mocking tone and the laughter. The case built momentum. Derek's lawyer started suggesting plea deals. I didn't care about their punishments as much as everyone thought I should. Let the courts decide. My focus was on Charlotte growing stronger every day in her incubator, and on my own body's battle against the cancer cells. The chemotherapy was brutal. I lost my hair within 2 weeks, nausea a constant companion. But I dragged myself to the NICU every day I could, sitting beside Charlotte, talking to her through the plastic. My mother became a constant fixture, splitting her time between me and Charlotte. The NICU nurses, like Bethany, became family. I've seen a lot of terrible family situations, Bethany told me one night. But what happened to you? That's a special kind of evil. During one chemo session I met Grace, a woman with breast cancer. When I told her my story she went pale. I'm so sorry, she whispered. My daughter-in-law drives me crazy sometimes, but I would never. You're so strong for leaving him. I didn't feel strong. I felt like I was barely holding myself together. But I smiled and thanked her anyway. The financial reality hit hard. Hospital bills piled up. My health insurance covered most of the cancer, but the premature birth and NICU care were astronomical. Derek and I had shared a bank account, which I'd closed, leaving me on my modest savings. Janet, the social worker, helped me navigate emergency assistance programs. Police reports, medical records, court filings. Each piece of documentation was a fresh wound, a reliving of the trauma. My father insisted on covering my rent. Money's just money, sweetie, he'd said. You focus on getting better and taking care of Charlotte. I hated feeling dependent. Derek and I had been financially comfortable. I'd stopped working full-time because Diane had convinced me it reflected poorly on him. Looking back, it was just another way to control me, to ensure my dependence. One afternoon while I was with Charlotte, Derek's college roommate, Nathan, showed up at the NICU. Security called me first. I hesitated, then agreed. Nathan had always been kind. He looked uncomfortable, hands shoved deep in his pockets. Hey Emily. I hope it's okay that I came. What do you want, Nathan? I wanted to see if you and the baby were okay. And I wanted you to know that what happened was completely messed up. When Derek told me his version, even that sounded bad. But then I talked to someone who was actually there. He shook his head. I can't believe he just stood there. I can't believe any of them did what they did. Are you still friends with him? Nathan looked down. Not really. I told him he was a coward and that he destroyed his marriage by listening to his mom instead of protecting his wife. He didn't take it well. Accused me of not understanding family loyalty. He laughed bitterly. Family loyalty. As if that's what that was. Nathan told me Derek's social circle had fractured. Some believed Derek's sanitized version, but others, those who knew me or the details, had distanced themselves entirely. His work found out too, Nathan said quietly. Someone sent the news articles to his HR department. They didn't fire him, but he got moved to a different project team. Nobody wants to work with a guy who let his pregnant wife get assaulted. A grim satisfaction settled over me. Derek's reputation was everything to him. Knowing people saw him for what he truly was felt like a small, quiet piece of justice. Derek kept trying to reach me through intermediaries. His brother's girlfriend, a cousin I'd met twice. My mom handled them with icy precision, then blocked their numbers. The divorce proceedings moved faster than expected. Derek contested nothing. His lawyer had apparently advised him that fighting for custody of a newborn, whose mother he'd allowed to be assaulted, while pregnant, was a losing battle. He agreed to supervise visitation. I wondered if he felt guilty. Did he replay that scene in Madison's living room, seeing his pregnant wife unconscious, his sister kicking her, his mother insisting it was all an act? Did he hear my silent screams? Did he think about choosing his family's comfort over my life? Probably not. People like Derek didn't do genuine self-reflection. They were already rewriting history, making themselves the victims. Charlotte came home 3 weeks after her birth, tiny but healthy enough for the NICU to release her. My parents had already sent up my old bedroom furniture, setting up a nursery in the small 2-bedroom apartment I'd rented far from Derek's neighborhood. It was sparse, plain, but it felt safe. Clean. My mother stayed for another month, helping with night feedings while I recovered from surgery and continued chemo. Dad came for 2 weeks, falling completely in love with his granddaughter. He'd sit in the rocking chair for hours, Charlotte tucked against his chest, tears streaming down his face as he whispered about all the things he'd teach her. "I'm sorry I wasn't more involved," he told me one night. "I should have seen what that family was doing to you. I should have said something. You couldn't have known it would get this bad." "Maybe not, but I knew they made you smaller somehow. Every time we visited, you were a little more quiet, a little more apologetic for existing. That should have been enough." He was right. Derek's family had been training me for years, conditioning me to accept their version of reality, to doubt myself, to prioritize their comfort over my well-being. The assault at the baby shower hadn't been an aberration. It had been the logical endpoint of years of emotional manipulation. The trial happened when Charlotte was 5 months old. I testified from home via video link, still too weak from chemo. The prosecutor led me through my account. Then Madison's lawyer tried to paint me as dramatic, attention-seeking. "Isn't it true you've always been jealous of your sister-in-law?" "No." "Isn't it true you resented her pregnancy because you wanted to be the center of attention?" "I was 7 months pregnant myself. I had plenty of attention." "Isn't it true you've exaggerated the events of that day to punish your husband's family for perceived slights?" I looked directly into the camera, thinking of the boots, the bleeding, the laughter. "I have cancer because nobody called an ambulance while I was hemorrhaging on the floor. My daughter was born premature because your client kicked me in the stomach while I was unconscious. I don't need to exaggerate anything." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Madison was found guilty of assault, Diane of criminal negligence. Robert got a lesser charge. Madison received a year in jail, Diane 6 months house arrest. Robert probation and fines. Derek's family immediately filed appeals, claiming jury bias, procedural errors. Their lawyer gave a statement to the local news about a miscarriage of justice. I didn't watch the coverage. I was home with Charlotte, watching her discover her own hands, learning the specific pitch of her hungry cry. The legal system would do what it would do. My job was keeping my daughter safe and getting well enough to watch her grow up. Chemotherapy continued for 5 months. Each session left me weaker, but the scans showed the cancer responding. By my final session, Dr. Williams used the word remission with genuine optimism. I would need regular monitoring for years, but for now I'd beaten it. "You're incredibly resilient," she told me, "physically and emotionally. What you survived would have broken a lot of people." I didn't feel resilient. I felt tired, scarred, angry, but I was alive. And Charlotte was thriving. And Derek's family no longer had any power over either of us. The divorce was finalized when Charlotte was 8 months old. Derek got supervised visitation every other Sunday for 2 hours. He showed up for the first 3 visits, bringing expensive toys Charlotte was too young to appreciate. Then he started canceling, claiming important meetings. His lawyer called mine to renegotiate, maybe reduce the frequency. I agreed readily. Charlotte wouldn't remember these early visits anyway. And frankly, I was relieved every time his name didn't appear on our schedule. The less contact with any of them, the better. Madison served her 4 months and got out, moving to California. Diane's house arrest was extended after she violated conditions by trying to contact me through a neighbor. Robert filed for divorce from Diane, apparently deciding her criminal record was too much of a social embarrassment. Derek's family was imploding, and I felt nothing but relief watching it happen from a distance. Charlotte's first birthday arrived on a sunny September day. My parents flew in and we had a small party in my apartment. Just the 4 of us and Aunt Carol, who had become Charlotte's honorary grandmother. We sang happy birthday to a little girl who smashed her cake with gleeful abandon, utterly unaware of how close she'd come to never having this day. That evening, after everyone had left and Charlotte was asleep, I sat in her nursery and cried. For the first time since everything happened. Not sad tears exactly. Something more complicated. Relief and grief and fury, all tangled together. For the woman I'd been, for the future I thought I was building, and for the fierce, fragile life I had now instead. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it without looking, but something made me check. "I'm sorry for everything. I know that's not enough. I know I failed you and Charlotte, but I hope someday you can forgive me. Derek." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I blocked the number and deleted the text without responding. Some things were beyond forgiveness. Some betrayals were too fundamental. He'd stood in his sister's living room and watched me, his pregnant wife, being assaulted while bleeding internally from cancer. And he'd done nothing because his mother told him I was faking. There was no coming back from that. No apology, no explanation could rebuild trust from those ashes. Charlotte stirred in her crib, a soft sigh meaning she was about to wake up. I lifted her gently, settling into the rocking chair, her warm weight against my chest. She looked up at me with Derek's blue eyes, but everything else about her was purely her own person, forming already at just 1 year old. "It's just us, baby girl," I whispered. "And that's okay. That's more than okay." She grabbed my finger and held on tight, already strong, already knowing instinctively what I'd learned the hard way. Sometimes you have to hold on for yourself because nobody else will do it for you. Outside my window, the Seattle skyline glittered in the dark. Inside my small apartment, my daughter and I were safe. Somewhere across the city, Derek was probably telling himself a story about how things got so messed up, how I'd blown everything out of proportion, how his family had been wronged. Let him tell whatever story he needed. I knew the truth. I had the scars, the medical records, the court documents to prove it. But more importantly, I had Charlotte. And I had my life. And I had the future we were going to build together. Without them, that was the revenge they'd never understand. Not needing them anymore, not wanting them back. Being genuinely happier without them than I'd ever been as part of their family. They tried to erase me, to make me so small and insignificant that my life didn't matter compared to the inconvenience of interrupting a baby shower. Instead, they'd freed me. They'd show me exactly who they were so clearly that I couldn't make excuses anymore. And in doing so, they'd lost everything. Their illusion of being good people, their cohesion as a family, their son and brother and grandson. I'd lost things too. My health had been compromised. My marriage was over. I'd have trauma to process for years. But I'd gained something far more valuable. Absolute clarity about what I deserved, and what I wouldn't tolerate. Charlotte fell back asleep in my arms, her breathing soft and even. Tomorrow we'd wake up and do it all again. Bottles and diapers and tummy time. Doctor's appointments and developmental milestones. All the ordinary magic of watching a person grow. We would build a life that was small and quiet and ours, far away from people who'd proven they couldn't be trusted with our well-being. And if that wasn't the ultimate payback, I didn't know what was. What about you? Have you ever had to draw a clear line with family members who put appearances or their own comfort above your well-being? How did you find your strength? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your stories.